Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Dumela, hello and welcome to yet another great episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. It's always an honor for me to come to you and share with you yet another guest. We like to think we're bringing to you life-changing business and life information, and from the feedback we've been getting, we are accomplishing some of that. So my request to you is, please, if you don't mind, strike that subscribe button immediately and also hit the notification bell, because believe me, it makes a huge difference. Just so you know, I'm discovering that there are 17,000 of you who watch this podcast regularly but just fail to strike that bell, and they are denying us a considerable amount of traction. For this show to be on air and for it to run, we require to have as many subscribers as possible. That's why we keep saying hit the subscribe button. So let me implore you once again to strike that bell as well. I welcome to the studio Mma Tlhapi Mosiakgabo.
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
Thank you for honoring our invitation.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. I think to get the ball rolling, you could start off by telling us a condensed CV, if you like, a brief resume, as they say in America, and your academic background as well.
Yeah. Okay, my name is Mma Tlhapi Mosiakgabo. I am a nurse by profession. I'm a mental health nurse. I've really invested in mental health. I started working in a mental health institution that was by then Lobatse Mental Hospital. That was around, my first day was 3rd of September 1983. I was very distraught and very frightened to be in the mental hospital. As it has been said, the stigma has been attached about mental patients and mental institutions, and that once you work with mental people or mental patients, you end up being mentally disturbed as well. So the myth and all those beliefs, they really make me very scared. But I said no. I just have to see what is inside this box. So I worked there. My first appointment, I was an enrolled nurse by then, which is a certificate in nursing. And then I worked 1983, 84, 1985. I went to Slebe to do my Form 4 and Form 5. And then I joined the NHI by then, which is now the IHS Komuleplule. And then for my 3-year course, diploma in general nursing. And after completion, I was posted to Princess Marina Hospital. I cried because I did not want to work in any hospital now beside mental health. So I decided that I'm just going by my own to start my work as a general nurse in mental hospital. That time it wasn't as tough as now, and I did get my pay. I was registered as a worker at a Lobatse Mental Hospital. 1985, I went for my mental health psychiatric nursing. I did it for 18 months, and then I finished. 2002, when the migration of nurses started, I just said no, I need to explore, because I found that I'm a very explorative person. So I went to the UK. I went and worked in the UK for 10 years. I firstly started in a mental health nursing home for geriatrics. That is not what I really wanted, because I wanted to explore more. And then I applied to Leeds Mental Health, which is the NHS, West Yorkshire. I saw this in the nursing RCN magazine. They usually advertise jobs in there. I applied, and then I was taken. I was taken at a very high band. God forbid, I don't know why. And I worked.
It's a blessing, isn't it?
Yeah. It was very hard, but since I had that zeal to know mental health, and mental health was in my heart always. Whenever I wake up, I said, I want to see this, and I want to take this back to my country. I worked with several agencies. I worked in prisons. Prisons in UK are real prisons. Those that you see in the TV, that's where I did work. And here, the prisoners, there are no prisoners here. They just, it's very calm. And, at first I was just quivering. And then I said, Mma Tlhapi, you know what you want. And I said, oh, yes, girl. And then I went and I worked. And then I had to go and work in personality disorders. Personality disorders, I mean personality disorders, whereby someone was admitted because he would lit the fire, and this fire will seduce him, and he will be happy with a...
Seduce him?
Yeah! Just seeing the fire, the flame, and burning things, he will be so seduced, and he will that is it.
That's a very extreme disease.
Yeah. In mental health, there's a lot of things. And those that when they see children out there, it's just like, oh my God. Just seeing small children. And mind you,
wanting to do what with
wanting to have sexual intimate with this child.
Oh, no.
That is a real sex offenders. I mean sex offenders. That's what I'm talking about. And, I'm one person who is scared of this handcuffs. So we have to be handcuffed to the patients when we are going out for town parole. And for me,
what's the reason for that?
So that they don't run, because I'm handcuffed and my colleague is on the other side handcuffed.
To the same patient.
His hands are handcuffed to staff. So we would be going for town parole just to see how this client, behaves.
There's a lot to unpack. There's really a lot to unpack in what you've just said. I want to just go back a little bit. We'll go to the UK, come back to Botswana. Your first exposure to mental health, you said, was in Lobatse, right?
Yeah.
Is it at Sabrana?
No. I'm not talking about Sabrana. Sabrana just came yesterday. Yeah. When Sabrana was built, I was working on my papers to go to UK. So when they moved in, I was in UK already. When Sabrana, it started with...
there was an old Sabrana and then there's a new one.
No. There's no old Sabrana and new one.
Oh.
There is mental health hospital.
I mean the physical building.
Yeah, mental hospital and now the Sabrana.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Sabrana is a new hospital. And this Sabrana is named after the first psychiatrist who was an Italian, Dr. Sabrana, who came in with this ECT whereby you would...
he was electrifying people, wasn't he?
It wasn't electrifying anyway. It was just like... putting some volts.
I'll tell you a little story on that.
Tell me.
I had an uncle.
Yeah.
We called him PPLP, Penyo.
I know him.
And
I've met him.
Was apparently a patient of Sabrana.
Very intelligent guy.
And he used to be he used to like Malcolm X, one of his favorite authors of Malcolm X. We used to talk about that. But after he went there and after he was electrified, to me, he seems to have deteriorated and he lost it. We couldn't have normal conversations. So I wonder about this I call it electrification because I don't know the right word for it.
Okay, this is called electroconvulsive therapy. So with this electroconvulsive therapy, they are like put on the temporal part or temporal areas of your head, and then they put in there's a machine there whereby they just press and then it transmits this electricity into your brain just to shake it a bit, and then you will be better. Actually, those days it was given in a very primitive way, I can say, for a better word to use, but it was the best because there were no better psychotropic medications like we have now, and the amount of voltage induced into you were not measured in such a way that it has to be measured.
That's why I called it electrocution.
Yeah,
Did you work with Dr. Sabrana?
I didn't work with Dr. Sabrana. When I joined, he had already passed on.
Oh, I see.
But I worked with Mr. Ponyani. I don't know if he's still alive. Yeah, that was one of the first psychiatric nurses. He trained in Kenya and Majani. These were the first psychiatric nurses in Botswana who trained in Kenya. So really...
When you were there in Lobatse, what seemed to be the predominant ailments or diseases or challenges that brought people to the hospital?
Well, at that time, it wasn't as it is now. Mental illness was just a kind of a genuine pathological cause of it, not like now, because the external environment was so receptive and very calm as compared to now. So genuinely people were having mental illness. And at that time, the most prominent one was schizophrenia, and we used to see bipolar. Those were the most prominent conditions that we would see by that time. Well, depression was there, but I think the research has not yet revealed the depression part of it. By that time, I think the research had focused on schizophrenia and bipolar, because when we were doing this, we found that most of the schizophrenic patients were coming from Ramotswa. Why? Because they were marrying within the clan. So it was really because mental health, mental health, incestuous. Yeah, it can be hereditary. Yeah. So it was mostly schizophrenia. So
there was a lot of intermarriage that led to this.
Yeah. And some of it, was coming from Kanye. But with Kanye, I don't think there was a research, taken into it further like in Ramotswa, because the population of schizophrenic patients mostly were coming from Ramotswa.
Someone has told me that per capita, Mahung has the biggest number of mental patients. Is that true? I think people are just talking.
No, really, it could be just by saying, but we really believe in research. So if it hasn't been researched, I cannot say I cannot say yes, and I cannot say no. Yeah, but really, I can say most of mental health issues are found in towns and cities because of the lifestyle that we are living.
And in terms of Botswana, when somebody is schizophrenic, is there any other cause beyond the possibility of interbreeding, as you said?
Probably, yes, it is still there, because I may have schizophrenia, and there's a possibility that I can have a schizophrenic child, and that is there.
So it's mainly hereditary.
It is. It can be.
Okay. Yeah. Now let's still talk about your experiences in when you were in Lobatse. What was the most, I wouldn't say horrifying, but the biggest case that really, if you like, shocked you or took you by surprise?
The biggest case was, there was this what we call SPDs. The SPDs are the state presidential detentions. These are people who would have killed someone, and then they were detained in Lobatse if they were not sentenced capitally. They were sent to Lobatse and they would take their medications there. So one time we were working night duty, and then they grouped themselves, because they are very manipulative person, or they were very manipulative people, let me say. So they grouped themselves together. They wanted to kill us.
How many of them?
There were about 5 men, and at night we usually there was usually about 4. So they have sharpened a knife, and there was a nurse whom they had targeted, who was our supervisor. Because really, when you are working with mental health people, you have to have firm boundaries. Otherwise they will just manipulate. So that was the worst case scenario.
So 5 of them came?
Yeah, 5 of them, because Ghana that time there was this what we call the male ward. So the male ward was just like this table there, which the offices were here, and then there were the bedrooms for patients, whereby they will be sleeping like 10, 15 in a small bedroom. Some would be sleeping on beds, some would be sleeping on floors. You can imagine that was a very terrible situation by then. So we had to go on at night to check on them, how they are, because of some issues that I cannot disclose, very confidential. So when sometimes we would log in and count them and do that. So somebody tipped us that he has sharpened a knife and he's going to kill
one of the patients.
Yeah, one of the patients told us that this have sharpened the knife, and be careful, you are going to be killed, you, so and so. So that was a very terrifying.
So what action did you take?
And the action, we had to call the police by then, and the prisons, because we were next to prison as well. So that night he was then moved to prison, because it was really a terrible thing.
Why did you decide to go to the UK?
I decided to go to UK because I wanted to see mental health in the first world, and I wanted to explore. I wanted to bring change into my country. I think so.
And in terms of the main differences between the UK and Botswana, what did you notice?
Mental health in UK is taken like it's really considered than here, because I saw the medications, the first class medications, I saw them in UK. Here when I left, we were just using Lagactil or chlorpromazine, Serenase, haloperidol, Attain, and Attain was one of the
all those things
most favorable drug for mental health patients by then, because it will make you euphoric. So they will just come and say, rolling their eyes and saying, because the side effect of it is for you to the eyes will be rolling and the tongue will be protruding and your neck will be like this. So they will just fake all this and say Kikupa Attain, meaning I'm asking for Attain. And then you will give Attain, and if you don't give Attain, you are something else, which could
so
be
they would fake.
Yeah, they would fake the side effects,
so that they can get euphoria.
As soon as he swallows it, it's okay. So in UK, what I have observed was that the ECT was still being used.
What's
but
ECT?
The electroconvulsive therapy was used for those patients with a very, very depressed status, and it was given in small amounts of electricity, about 10 times the ECT, and at the same time they were being given some medications. So the medications in UK were very, very advanced, So I'm very pleased, and I would want to applaud one of our psychiatrists in Botswana, Dr. Mpotula, who trained in Ireland, and when he came in this country, he advocated for the first class medications, which are now in use, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge because of availability, and that psychotropic drugs are very expensive, but at least they are there. And
you hinted on there being stigma in Botswana over mental health. Why do you think there's this stigma, and how can it be dealt with?
There is stigma in mental health in our country because I really don't know. Is it associated with the boloi as it has been before? Or
witchcraft?
Yeah, witchcraft. But is it associated that not me, I can't have mental health? And, even people living around you, they stigmatize you, they call you Setseno, which is mental person. Yet when I am suffering for, what can I say? When I'm suffering BP, I won't be called by my diagnosis. And nobody would ever know that I'm suffering from BP,
Unless you tell them.
Yeah, unless you tell them. And people will be questioning me, saying that, no, don't do that. He has got BP. His BP will go up and this and that. But with mental health, that one, you can imagine. He has to say that because is a mental person. So this really stigmatizes us rather than, taking this person closer to you and heal this person, because it's the mind.
Yeah, the second part of my question was, how can that be addressed as a society? How do we reverse the stigma?
The stigma has to be reversed by us, me and you. We have to come out and tell people that I am a mental health person and my challenges are 1, 2, 3. Tell them what you experience. Say like you are a schizophrenic patient and then you have had your medication. Tell them that I used to see snakes. I used to see people coming to attack us. I used to hear voices talking to me, but I could not see these people. I used to see this. And people will then come up and know that, if I hear these voices, because all this will be attributed to witchcraft, which is not true, and your relatives will be running around with you, going to the churches, going to pray for you, and that does not
Nothing
help.
wrong with that.
Nothing wrong
prayer
with
doesn't.
It doesn't. But at the end of the day, seek the medical advice first before you could go there.
Is there really a cure for something like schizophrenia? And if so, what is the cure?
The cure for schizophrenia is not definite, but it can be controlled, because you would be taking medications which will alleviate those signs and symptoms of hearing voices, seeing unusual visions, doing all those other signs and symptoms.
So there's a special medication that...
Yeah, there are special medications.
Will they make those
they definitely,
those hallucinations, will they disappear?
Definitely they will disappear. And sometimes as we go along, you taking the medication, we do have what we call drug leave, whereby we say that, okay, can we give you 3 months without medication, but you still coming for checkups so that we see how it is. Because really taking chronic medications for life, it's a tedious thing for anyone. Yeah.
All right. In the UK, you said you were there for 10 years.
Yeah.
What type of patients were you mainly dealing with?
By that time, drugs were surfacing up. That was from 2002 to 2009. This is when the drugs were now surfacing up. But
being created.
Yeah, they were now getting to be in the mental health issues. And then
they were being discovered.
Yeah. And we were having bipolar disorders, we were having depression, and mostly depression was taking a lead. And we were having schizophrenia and schizoaffective. All those.
What's that?
Schizoaffective is in the mid of bipolar and schizophrenia. You will present with schizophrenic symptoms as well as the bipolar symptoms. So this is what we call the schizoaffective.
Since they don't have inbreeding, I presume, in the UK, what is the cause there?
I really did not question the cause, but I want to believe that it was a pathological, mental health issues there. Yeah.
All right. And how would you treat most of these ailments compared to how they are treated back here home?
They were treated with those medications because really everything was available in UK. And there was this medications which they used to give those people with a chronic hallucinations, delusions. So this medications was called the clozapine. So the clozapine is one of the good medications for schizophrenic, though it has got some side effects of it because it would destroy the white blood cells. So when patients were on clozapine, it has to be white blood cell monitored because it does destroy the white cell counts. But it was a very good medication because it would really do a good job in hearing of voices and all the like related to signs and symptoms of schizophrenia. They were having a lot of medications, risperidone injections, which were long-acting medications. But here the long-acting medications that we have is the fluenzol depot and the flupentexol depot. So this works differently, and they are in an oily form, so they take a long time to be absorbed, as we know that the velocity of oil is very slower than the water, so it takes you about 3 to 4 weeks in the body still working. But there they used to have very good medications, honestly, and I think at some point we shall reach there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to address people who watch this show who are mostly entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, and explain to us the sort of mental ailments that affect business people and entrepreneurs generally.
Yeah, as entrepreneurs, we are affected by fear of unknown, which will bring us anxieties. And as anxiety and stress, as they build up, they bring us depression. Because now you saying that I am failing, and instead of you saying that, okay, I'm failing, but I can consult and let somebody, help me to overcome my failures, you let yourself fail more. Hence you get deeper and deeper with your thinking, hence you get depressed, and you end up doing a lot of things. You end up going for drugs because you are trying to soothe your emotional pain and trying to disguise the pain in you and what you are seeing in front there, and hence we have depression leading to suicide, homicide, and you being in big debts. Then you end up saying, I don't worth living, hence you commit suicide.
And how prevalent is that? How widespread is that problem?
The suicide is now, or depression is now, a global problem, because in every second, 10 people globally commit suicide.
Every second?
Yes.
How did you come with that statistic?
It is the statistics of the WHO.
World Health Organization.
Yeah, I think so. So really, suicide is escalating. And in Botswana, suicide is not as in UK, because they have got a lot of ways of committing suicide. They don't strangulate themselves. They throw themselves from heights. They throw themselves in front of the train. You can imagine the train there, and they just go there and throw themselves in front of a moving train, in front of a moving car. It's really...
You've seen these cases?
Yes, I've seen these cases. In UK, when it says that somebody is suicidal, they really take high precautions of it. This client is being taken care of at arm's length. Arm's length, I mean, even when going into the restroom. So
what are the steps to take when you have a business person or even a relative who's suicidal? What are you supposed to do?
Please take this person to the health institution. I know that the Bokamoso, Sidilecha, GPH, they're still behind on taking care of these people, and they don't know what to do with this client. So they would say, okay, we'll refer you to Princess Marina Hospital, or you better be referred to Sabrana, and this worsens the situation, honestly.
Why?
Because I don't want to be associated with Sabrana, even if I do that. And I really don't know why these private hospitals, they are not taking care of health inclusively. And
would they require to have separate wards which deal with mental health issues? Would they require to create those wards?
Yeah, I think that's what they're thinking. Yeah, that's what they're thinking. I really don't know their modality, and really I don't understand why they are not incorporating mental health into that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time now to talk about Fish and Hope Mental Health Services, which is your company. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that and how you came to come up with this organization.
Yeah, the Fish and Hope comes from my name, Mma Tlhapi, because you know that when you go fishing, you have that fish net, which is done sophisticatedly, let me say, and when you take it to the water, you don't go where there is a water turbulence, you go to where there is still water. And if ever you have seen a fisherman, these people, they are always calm, they are always hopeful, and they would always come up with something to put on the table for their children. This is where the name Fish and Hope comes from. Yeah, there is always hope. Yeah, so I'm hoping my fishes, or my fish, is me and you to get you to know about mental health and not to be working in a commotion. We have to work calmly for you to understand why I am saying you are mentally challenged. Yes, so this is where the name comes from. Yeah.
And the organization, where is it based?
Based at Protest, Extension 21, behind Tsolofelo Community Hall, 6784. I am being licensed by Ministry of Health, thanks to God. I'm licensed as a private hospital and rehabilitation, and I've got 2 beds to start with, and I'm still not having proper staff. I'm working with locums to come and help me if I had to admit clients.
What are locums?
Those who are just like piece job. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what sort of patients and what sort of cases have you had so far?
Yeah. I usually don't take very, very aggressive patients. I just take them to Lobatse to be stabilized first, and then they can come in because of the security situation that I'm having. So, and the start that I am still at this point in time. And I have heard about this year, I have heard about 6 admissions, and I have seen about 23 patients this year, and 6 patients admission, and then the rest were those which were outpatient. But I'm very pleased because those that I have had, they are now doing very well. If I have a client, say like I've heard about 2 small or 2 gentlemen or 2 young adults who were doing drug substance, I worked with them, and one was at Botswana University, and he did go back to his school. The other one did not do very well with his Form 5 because he was having that problem already, challenge of drugs. So now I have taken him back to school, and he's back to school, and he's telling his parents that this year he's writing 4 subjects, and he's very optimistic that he's going to pass. Okay. Yeah.
What are the ailments that are there in the society in Botswana that people A, take for granted, or B, don't recognize?
Substance is a challenge.
Substance abuse?
Substance abuse is a challenge. young adults and adults. Yeah, really, this is because of the emotional pain of an individual. And instead of this person coming out and talking about his emotional pain, he would go and take some substance so to numb the pain. And if you sit down with this person, you find that there has been cumulative incidences of trauma on this person as he grows. And then this person doesn't consider this trauma as emotional pain. You know, the emotional pain is not like a physical pain, whereby I lose my finger, I feel the pain that time. And when I look at my finger, it's like, okay, I lost my finger, but I won't feel the pain like when I lost my finger at that particular time. But the emotional pain, if I think about my mother who has passed on now, I would cry as if my mother has just, I'm just being told that your mother.
So you can experience it over and over.
Yeah, it's something that you can experience over and over like a new thing. And this thing will disturb your mind. Like I said, your mind is the largest organ of a being. Okay. So really that is it. And then we find that there's a lot of depression prevailing right now in our country. More so, this has come up and very pronounced after trauma. You can imagine the trauma that we went through by corona. We have experienced social isolation. We have experienced people losing their job. We have experienced people losing their family and significant others. And losing the family and significant others is being added up by we having lost our relatives through HIV. So you can imagine, you lost your father through HIV, your mother is alive, and next thing your mother dies due to corona. So, you get so traumatized and you are just like being distraught and always living in fear or now what's going to come next. Even when you have got just a flu, you just die before you go to the hospital. Hence you become depressed. Yeah.
Okay. A chance to blow your own trumpet a little bit in terms of sharing some of the cases you've had. I want you to give a few cases before and after without necessarily mentioning names, to give us an idea of what assistance and what interventions you can make.
The few cases that I've had, the other one was contemplating divorce, which was very difficult. She couldn't handle it. She ended up having what we call psychotic depression. So psychotic depression is whereby you'll be losing it, talking on your own, hallucinating, and all those things. Eventually was referred from one of the private hospitals to me. I did manage to stabilize the client. Now she's back to work.
How do you stabilize such a client?
With medications.
What kind of medications?
The antidepressants. The antidepressants. So she was.
You have to know the right ones.
Yeah, we have to know the right ones. So she was stabilized with antidepressant. I worked with Dr. Tula over this patient, and now she's back to work, and she's going through counseling by the psychologist, and she's now working towards her last time of divorcing. So really,
she's no longer divorcing.
No, she is. She is in the process now, and she's now back to herself. So in psychiatry or in mental health, we work with the mental health nurse, we work with the psychologist, we work with counselors, and the occupational therapist. People don't know what the occupational therapist does, but the occupational therapist is the most important person in mental health, because
why?
He tells you how to, deal with your time, your daily chores, how you can spend your time better. So this person will help you. Like, when you have got, you can't handle everything like, because that will cause a burnout. So he will help you that when you get to work, what do you usually do first? And he will help you to, step by step, get to it rather than being disgruntled over your work. Yeah,
I've seen cases where after going to the mental hospital, someone becomes trance-like or zombie-like, where some of them even shiver and they're zombie-like. So sometimes, doesn't it seem as if the cure is worse than the disease?
Yeah. That also brings us back to stigma. Those are the side effects of medications. But those remote medications that were being used before. But right now, these first-class medications, they do have less side effects. So much that that chewing of the tongue and the lips, passing in, passing out,
and looking like you don't know where you are,
and like as if you would go like with your fingers like in and out like that, and sometimes we call it a wheelbarrow posture. So those things are now no longer there. Few will do that, but as soon as we see that now you are having this side effect, we switch you to a better one, and then we stop those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other nice outcomes you can share?
The nice outcome that I can share with you is that I am now registered with BPOMAS and Pula, so I'm just waiting for one thing, then I'll be receiving patients from BPOMAS and Pula. So I'm starting
so
to
now
push
it
on
seems as if these medical insurance organizations are now recognizing mental health enough, because before they were not.
They were now recognizing mental health, and it was a fight because I had to I really had to fight. Yeah, it wasn't easy for me because I started registering with them by 16th of May 2022, and you can imagine now it was beginning of this month when they told me that they have now registered me. So the whole year was fighting, and people were wanting to come, but they could not come because they didn't have money to pay, and few would be able to pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the role of the Ministry of Health in terms of this infrastructure of mental health? What is their role?
I'm very pleased right now with the Ministry of Health because they are now working on a new Mental Health Act. Ghana, in mental health, there is always law behind it, because someone can sue you for saying that you are saying I'm mentally sick. So the Ministry of Health right now is working on Mental Health Act, which I think with this coming parliament is going to be discussed, and soon it will be out in the public domain and for our consumption, which is a very, very good step, because the one that we have been using, it was so out-fashioned. I can't remember, but I think it was early 80s when it was implemented, and you can imagine for how many years now. But right now, I can see that.
What is it that you think needs to be changed in the old act?
Really, I would say we have to change mental health, and we have to take mental health as any other illness.
In the law.
You mean needs to be changed in the law?
Yes.
About mental health.
Yeah, in terms of what is the new law going to do that wasn't there in the old law?
The new law that is there, I think, is going to... I haven't seen it, but with my assumption is that they're going to encompass the sex offenders. It has to be there. What's to be done with sex offenders, and a law should be there for sex offenders, because sometimes these sex offenders, they do it not intentionally, but because of their ill health, mental.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not intentional?
No, it's not. Sometimes it's not.
How can you excuse messing with young children and say it's not intentional?
No, some is not. Some is because of their... Like I said earlier on, that we have this client who would just want to see the fire, and he would just like that. So we have got those pedophilias, which is part of mental health illness, and those who would enjoy the sadists. Sadists are part of mental health. So
speaking of pedophilia, in America they have a system where if somebody is suffering from that or has had a situation with children, it has to be published and the community has to be notified that a person like this is living in your neighborhood.
Yeah,
to protect the children.
Even in UK, they have got that sex offenders register. I think the minister will have to also consider the sex offenders register here, because now people are moving from their own countries and moving in here, and they are pervert. They run away because we don't use the sex offenders register here, whereby we would say, okay, James is a sex offender, so we can't accept this person here. So you find that this person comes in here and he's using these small children, buying them sweets, using them. And this is what he has been doing in his own country. So he fled over here to do that freely so. Yeah.
I thought we should have a sex offenders register.
I definitely.
What is delaying it?
I really don't know what's delaying it, but that's why I'm saying
Shouldn't people in your profession engage the ministry or the relevant authorities to do that?
I think so. We have got a very active mental health nurse, Mr. Zibochwa, in Ministry of Health. I think we'll just have a word and I'll ask him about the register for sex offenders. But I think really the government should also put a heavy hand on having a register of sex offenders. Yeah.
So any other solutions that if you had the authority or perhaps if you had the Minister of Health, you would consider implementing?
I would really implement better medication for mental health, because medication research is going on every day, rather than us using those old-fashioned medication, which is taking a long time for them to be, phased off. Like we are still using we have got only 2 long-acting depot injections. So I think the government can still bring
What do you mean depot injections?
The depot injections are those that takes about 21 to 28 days in the system still working. So I think the government can still improve and bring more medication. In India, they've got a lot of new psychotropic medications, of which I think the government of Botswana should liaise with India and bring the modern medication here. It is a long process, yes, because it has to go through BOMRA, this, that. So really, it's taking a toll for us to change the new psychotropic medications.
And the recent problem that was all over the newspapers about backlog in supplying medicines, where in fact there was talk of serious shortages across the country. What solutions are available for that?
It was very pathetic and very appalling, very painful, let me say, because if you are on a certain medication and this medication is not available, we have to switch you to another medication, and we have to switch you to another medication. So this was like hampering the confidence of the health workers into the client, and it was also ensuing the non-compliance of the client, because he would come with he would be saying, this medication has been working out for me very well, and now this medication is not in stock, so can we give you this one? And the client will say, and at the end of the day, the client will just take the medication and put the medications home and not take them, hence relapse. And there has been an influx of relapse psychiatric clients. And right now, I don't know if the law allows me, but if you go to Princess Marina right now, where there used to be the psychiatric clinic, right now that psychiatric clinic is closed because it has been infested with termites. Yes. And now they have gone to Block 6 clinic.
But termites can be killed.
That little house is so infested so much that nothing can be done except for bringing it down. So you can imagine. And we used to see about 600 to 700 patients per month in that psychiatric clinic. So it was really
sad.
And
has the problem been solved, or has it been alleviated?
Yeah, the problem has been alleviated because they have now moved the clinic to Block 6 clinic. Yeah, but I mean
generally the availability of medicines, has that improved?
On and off. Because I'm not in the system, but I believe that it's on and off, as I have heard. Yeah.
So how can a regular business person help themselves to guard against being affected or being infected or being inflicted with a mental illness? What are the steps that we can take to not to immunize ourselves, but certainly to protect ourselves from these ailments?
Really, it's very devastating, because I have knocked in several doors to drop in the letters, to tell them or to ask them to call me to talk to them about mental health. And none of these organizations has come back to me and say, we have received your letter. Yet they are having the human resources in there which are not functional, which are paining. Every day they have to come to work and nobody is addressing or seeing this person having mental illness or mental health challenges. Rather, they would say, she or he doesn't want to work. But how can I work when I'm mentally challenged? And I'm not being sensitized that if you see yourself like this, know that you are not well. It has been easy for people.
I appreciate that. My question is, what do we do as business persons to protect ourselves? What steps can we do?
The steps that we can do as business people, because now the business did fail, and right now we are looking on the business now building up. So we really have to slow ourselves and adjust ourselves to the current situation of business challenges. And you also need to see health personnel, not that you will be having a big problem. As soon as you see that, I don't think I'm functioning well right now, just go and ask, am I okay? Just to go and ask, even when every day you can
mean go and see a therapist?
Yeah, therapist. Just go and tell the therapist, am I really okay? It doesn't mean that you can't go there and ask if you are okay. We usually go to the hospital, check our blood pressure, check our sugar levels, check this, but none of us has ever gone to any mental health.
So the first thing is to go and see a mental health professional.
Go see mental health professional and ask this person, am I okay? And I'm experiencing 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that okay with me? Because really we've got nothing to measure we've got nothing to calibrate or to measure your mental wellness until and unless you come and talk.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any connection between diet, what we eat, and mental health?
Yeah, I have seen, or let me say yes, because right now we are eating the genetically modified food, and we find that the dementia status is now coming up in our country, of which it has been there, but not as much as we're seeing it right now, and some other conditions which are also associated that may cause dementia as well. Yeah. So
what food should we avoid? How will you know that something is genetically modified?
Really, we just have to put it with food. I can't say much about food because that I think have to be answered with the nutritionist,
or dietitian.
But really, the dietitian and the nutritionist. But really, food is all about the amount and the meal. You don't have to miss any of your meals. And by eating these sweet things, too much salt. There's a lot of junk that we are eating nowadays, because those days we would eat morocco, and that was healthy, with mashi. That was healthy, but nowadays we eat a lot of refined
and health stuff. Yeah. Okay. In terms of your practice, what is the long-term outlook? If I had to ask you, for instance, to share your long-term plans, what would they be?
Or just
10, 15 years even?
In the next 5-10 years, let me say, I would like to see a private mental hospital in my country. Really, yeah. And that's now a pain in me. That's what is paining me at this point in time. Because I can see that it's doable. It's very doable.
Okay. Have you benchmarked somewhere where this sort of hospital functions?
I've benchmarked where I have worked, because I did work in a mental health hospital. Yeah. So I know what to be done and what can be done. And the most important thing will be like the restraining of mental health patients.
Yeah.
Because you can't do without restraining a mental health patient. So that's what I wish I could do. And that is
so you're planning to build one?
Definitely.
What are you going to look for land and put it up?
I have a land already.
You're willing to share? Maybe somebody is listening there who might want to partner with you.
Yeah. I'm like now working on the project part of it, and I think I will like hand in my project to Ministry of Health in the next 2-3 in the next 6 months at least, and I know that I'm going to have a go ahead with it. And now I have a land, so I'm just like trying to get resources to make the hospital. Yeah, because the land is readily available, honestly. Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. Some people might be skeptical that, look, this is a very laudable thing. This is a desirable thing to get into as a profession, but is there money? In other words, is there any good returns if you are in this field? So tell us how the money is made and whether, in fact, it's a lucrative business.
Mental health is a lucrative business like any other hospital here in my country, Bukamoso, Sedileha, and GPH. I think they're making money. However, even if I want to make money, but I would have bring change to have a private mental health hospital of its first in my country, and myself, driving behind.
I guess what I'm asking you is that whether a youngster should consider this as a profession or as a way of making a living, somebody who's maybe undecided.
Both.
Yeah.
You can make it both. You can make it a profession and you can make it a business. Yeah. You can make it a business, because right now we have got Dr. Tula is running a business, Dr. Mulabati is running a business, Dr. Zorik is running a business, and they seem to be overwhelmed with their clients. And their clients, if they want to admit them, they don't want to go to Lobati. Yeah. I wouldn't be happy to be admitted in Lobati, because once I get out there, I'm being stigmatized. But if maybe there's a private hospital, there will be less stigma attached to me. Yeah.
I wonder what they can do in Lobati to reverse the stigma. I know we touched on it earlier. Surely there must be something that can be done.
It has to be, yeah. I think they are working hard for it to be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there are cases extreme cases where people are involved in prostitution and some are involved in drugs. So I was going to ask you whether there's such a thing as a lost cause. Are there ever extreme cases where even you have to say, look, like the doctors say, oh, no, you, it's a matter of time, you are gone? we can't help you?
I haven't met any worst scenario so far, but really with drugs, you can just die instantly. Yeah, by overdosing of those illicit substances, you can just die. And I once saw a client, his nostril was not there because of sniffing. So it was just an open nose like that. And he was saying
just a hole.
Yeah, just a hole. Yeah, due to those drugs. And this was about 2021, before I retired. I saw that client. So with prostitution, it's just somebody being, they have to numb their emotions as well with this substance. Because I think there's those that we call professional prostitutions, whereby...
they say it's the world's oldest profession.
Yes. Some will prefer to stay clean and do prostitution only without drugs. Those are the professional ones. So the amateur ones are those that will use drugs just to numb them, and that who would want to have drugs, and if they don't have money, they have to go sell themselves so that somebody can buy them drugs. So really, they can even be killed by those people. They are very, very vulnerable. Yeah.
Because I wonder whether then that's a form of mental ailment if a person chooses to go into prostitution, whether it's as a profession or whether it's because of drugs. Will there be a mental disease behind that?
Those with professionals, I don't think there is some mental illness, because they are really saying they know what they are doing. It's part of their job. Yeah, it's part of their job. So these ones, which are not professional ones, they are doing it because maybe they are drug-driven. They are drug-driven.
Okay. So just as a final question, apart from amending the Mental Health Act, which the government, you say, is doing, what is the most important thing that you think we should be doing as a nation in this area? Collectively.
Sensitizing people about mental health is very, very important, because without people being sensitized about mental health, we won't win the game. But sensitizing for people to know the signs and symptoms of mental health, knowing that mental health is treatable, knowing that mental health can run within the family, knowing that we can have mental health challenges at work, this would help us to understand that mental health is really existing. Yeah.
Okay, I said this was going to be the last question, but you just triggered another one, which is this, that there's this system of people getting an order from Molaudi to get a hold of a relative who's behaving badly.
Very good.
And then taking them to Sabrana. Is that system working? Isn't that system stigmatizing? Because I've heard people come out of there and saying they hate the relative who referred them there.
That's a very important question, because mental health, like I'm saying, that there should be Mental Health Act. That is part of the Mental Health Act. Even in the UK, that Mental Health Act is there, whereby when you resist to go to mental health, or whereby you resist to go and look for help, yet we see that you are not well, we have to go and ask the Molaudi to make the
district commissioner.
The district commissioner to go make an apprehension order, and after an apprehension order, there is a reception order.
What is the difference?
The apprehension order is for the police officers to go and apprehend you. Why the police officers? Because they are the peace and tranquility officers.
They are responsible for that.
Yeah, they are responsible for that. And they have to go and apprehend the individual, take this individual to the health facility whereby he will be helped. And then after the doctor assess this client and see that this client needs to be confined, the doctor has to fill a form, and then the relatives has to take it to the DC's office, and then the DC will have to write a confinement of 21 days to 28 days into a mental health institution, which is renewable if the client is not yet better or has not yet recuperated to the sense that it can be resigned. Yeah. And with the help of the psychiatrist, the psychiatrist, I think, has the mandate to resign it, to say, no, this client now is okay. He can now be discharged from the Mental Health Act and be a voluntary patient. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is being...
And where people have been wrongly taken to hospital, is there any recourse for them?
The relatives, sometimes they misuse this, because they would say, like, maybe we are having an altercation, reasonably so, and they would say, when we are having an argument, one of us is liable to be so escalated in behavior, so much that he will say, I will hit you. Genuinely, not like anybody can say that. But once you were a mental patient, once you say, I will hit you, he's now starting again. And then they just rush to Molaudi and say, he is starting to beat us. This is what happened in 2020. This is what happened, this. And then you'll find yourself in Lubatse Mental Hospital. And when we question it, we find that no, this was just a normal altercation in the family. And since now this person has had this history of mental health, they are now stigmatizing the individual. Yeah.
And you are able to intervene?
We are able to intervene. We are able to intervene because we take history from both the client and the relatives.
Okay.
And we do assess the client as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is the time where you now get to ask me a question. Do you have a question for me, madam?
My question is that since you are a big establishment here, have you ever sensitized your staff about mental health, about stress? Do they know what is stress, what is anxiety, what is depression? Have you ever called, or have anyone came to you as a supervisor and say, I'm not feeling well, I think I'm stressed? And if so, what have you done about it?
That's a good question. We do not have specialists in mental health coming in, but we do have people who are, in the personal development area. We would have somebody like Key Wealth. Key Wealth, they deal with a lot of that, issues of finance, issues of emotional intelligence. So they do cover some of these. For instance, they have had Mma Tlhapi, who is an expert on some of these matters, sharing with us. And I'm continually encouraging my people to engage in personal development. So whenever there's a seminar, whenever there's a talk having to do with personal development, because what I find is that personal development arms you or reinforces some of the skills you have, so that when an issue of mental illness comes, you are equipped. So based on our conversation today, I think maybe we should now invite somebody like you, especially to come and talk to us. But what we've been doing is emphasizing personal development and personal development type of training. That's what we've been doing. But we need to do more of that, because often what happens is that towards the end of the year, we sort of rush it because the year is coming to an end, and this HRMC will soon be closing its books. So we need to standardize it, and we need to do that a bit more. So thank you for having reminded us to get into it a bit more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the mind is a very, very big organ, like I said, and I still say it.
Tell us about the mind as we conclude. What
the mind, you can talk to me about the financial issues. You can talk to me about building myself up. But if my mind is not okay, how am I going to recept and conceptualize and implement what you have said to me, because my mind is not okay. So you have to set my mind okay first and make sure that the stumbling blocks in front of my mind are being addressed. What has disturbed you today? Because every day I get up from home, that little thing, upsets me. And when I get to work, I want to exert my whole being into my work, because something is nagging behind in my mind, telling me that something is not right.
So how can that be addressed?
And this can be addressed by sensitizing people to know that they have to talk. That's the only way to assess your mind. Talk to a health professional who would help you. We are being traumatized, and we live with this trauma from our little being, whereby you lost your grandmother and you are told that your grandmother has gone to the lands, and you will never see that grandmother of yours again. And this is a trauma. Mind is it's a very sensitive organ, and it goes like back and forth. It's just like a computer whereby you put in trash and you can recall. So really, we have to understand our mind. We have to understand how we function daily. Because once you put up your leg, once you eat, it's your mind that drives you, that tells you. So that is why I always say the mind is the largest organ of us. Without our mind, nothing can be done.
Mind is a terrible thing to waste.
It is.
Okay, take a look at that camera, madam, and leave the viewer with one final motivational message as we part.
My motivational is, let's talk mental health. And we have to be aware that a counselor has to be a professional person who knows how to identify elements of mental health in you. Nowadays, we go to the churches and we say, I have seen a counselor at church. Really, this person, has he or she really dig deep about your being, whereby you have just come in and say, I'm having a problem? A counselor has to be a professional counselor, please, and seek for professional counselor. Then you can go to a Mruti, which is a pastor, to talk to him about your spiritual issues, and then this will build you up. Don't shy away to look for help about your mental being. And nowadays we know that life is challenging. We've got financial challenges, we've got parenting issues, and parenting is one of the challenging issues, because nowadays we spend most of our time on gadgets. We don't attend to our children, and our children are being taken care of the gadget as well. Watches TV, plays TV game, he takes your phone, he plays the game, and you will find that a husband and a wife, they are on their phones, not focusing on the children. We don't know what our children are doing. So really, let's give less time to our gadget and give more time to our children. And even at work, take care of yourself at work. Talk to your boss and tell your boss, I am not feeling well today. And tell this person how you are not feeling well. And you need to know the signs and symptoms of mental health. Persistent headache can be a sign of depression. This kind of flu tomorrow, today, yesterday, it can be a sign of depression. Come and let's talk mental health, because we want a healthy nation. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Share with them all your contacts, including on social media.
Okay. My contacts are 7386 5273. That's my WhatsApp number. And the other one is 755-69-021. And the other one is 7514. My email address is Mma Tlhapi Mosia@gmail.com. So my Facebook page is there, but it's not yet functioning very much, but it's Fish and Hope Mental Health Services. You can access me through that. Thank you very much. I hope to see you very soon, and we'll talk mental health, and we'll assess your mental health to see that you really need help or not. Mental health is not all about medication. It's all about talking. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You've done a good job.
Thank you.